Rev up your engines!
Marcus Fry says, how to make your car coast better. Well, you'd want to make sure that you have the least friction tires, the ones that have the best gas mileage possible, that your brakes aren't dragging, but realize that you're breaking the law because it's really illegal in the United States to coast your car. Downhill or just sliding, you're supposed to have it in gear at all time because you have more control over the vehicle. It will handle better and it will also stop better. So it is actually against the law to coast in your car. I don't know how the police are going to figure out if you're coasting or not. But it is against the law to coast because you do lose a certain amount of control when you're just coasting instead of the engine and the transmission driving to Hawaii. And that said, I got to admit, when I was a kid, I did it all the time because I had an Opel as the first car. And I wanted to see what kind of gas mileage I'd get. And this is back in 1967. Sometimes I got 43 miles a gallon in that little Opel driving around because I would a lot of times coast. I'd see where I got to stop in a mile. I'd coast for a while, you know. And I know it was technically against the law, but you don't want to make a habit of it though, because you really do lose some control when you're coasting versus in gear and everything's spinning. You can stop faster, it'll corner better because all the momentum of the parts all spin. And the cars were made to be driven with the engine and the transmission going, not just gliding down. They weren't designed for that. Carlick S says, Scotty, I'm looking to buy an 8-year-old Lexus RX hybrid with a 3.5 6-cylinder. How reliable is a hybrid system and engine? Thoughts? Okay, it's a Lexus. It's got a V6 engine. Those engines are reliable as can be. The problem is the hybrid aspect of it. Now, you say it's what? 8 years old. You didn't say the mileage, but it's 8 years old. Toyota makes probably the best hybrid vehicles. A lot of people copied them. I got customers with those. They're still running good when they're 10, 12 years old. When that battery goes out, it's going to be a ton of money to change it. If you change it and don't put in a new battery but a remanufactured one, half the time they only last 1 or 2 years, then you start all over again, and even that's going to cost you at least $1,500, if not more. And a brand new battery might cost you $5,000-$6,000 to have replaced, so that's a lot of money. They, in the long run, are going to be expensive to drive, but mileage-wise, let's say you're looking at one with 80,000 miles. They generally don't start falling apart till you get 140 or 150, the hybrid system, so it's your choice, and it depends on what you pay for it, too. Don't pay too much. You said it's 8 years old, so it's pushing 10 years old. You don't want to pay too much for a used hybrid car. They just are too high. Now, if it was a non-hybrid, if it was me, I'd buy a non-hybrid one. And that thing could last you for 20, 30 years. They're insane. I would just look for a non-hybrid one if I were you. Trevor Ledbetter. How do you feel about rebuilt cars? Well, it depends how they were rebuilt. Now, if you're talking about just the title, that's got a rebuilt title. Most places, that means nothing. That only means that an insurance company totaled the car. Then somebody bought it. Then they fixed it and sold it. Here, I know in Texas for sure, there's nobody that inspects any of that stuff. If it says it's a rebuilt title, it just means that it was totaled by an insurance company. Somebody bought it and supposedly fixed it. So I would never buy one of those things, really. You know, it's just foolhardy. The only way that I would buy a car with a rebuilt title was if it looked like it went through a hailstorm and the whole thing's covered with dings from hail, because it costs so much money to fix all those dings that an insurance company will total the car. And if you don't mind driving around with a car that's got a billion dings in it and it's got a rebuilt title, hey, what the heck? You might get a real good price on a car that'll run. But, you know, most people don't want to be driving around a car that's got 8 billion dings on it. So that's up to you. But it would be a good car to drive otherwise. Brian Jones says, I got no 7 Focus. High idle at 2,000 to 3,000 RPM, then it goes down to normal. Anything to look at. Yeah, watch my video. Make your car run better with a little spray cleaner. You want to spray clean the MAF sensor, and you want to spray clean the throttle, because they often stick from carbon buildup. That's very common. Watch the video. The 2 cans will cost you maybe, I don't know, $16 for both combined. Watch the video. It's very informative, simple, short video. You can copy the stuff yourself. And also check for vacuum leaks, because if you got a vacuum leak when a car's running, you hear sucking under the hood, that vacuum leak will make it idle higher, so you check for that too. But cleaning is often the way to go. The big man of AK says, Scott Dog, my Mazda Speed 6 has turbo failure. Can't build, boost, or rev over 4,000 without making horrible noises. Burns a quart every fill-up. Car only has 77,000 miles, but a punk kid owned it. Is it fixable? Well, of course it's fixable, but you're going to have to replace the turbo, and turbos aren't cheap. You got 3 ways. You can buy a brand new one. It's going to cost a fortune. You can try to buy a remanufactured one, or you can take yours off and send it to a place that remanufactures them. My advice is check out the remanufactured ones to see what they want for them. And if they want 2 much and you're sort of a gambler, go to a junkyard. They'll sell you a used one a lot cheaper, and at least you can spin it and see if it rattles, see if it's got any play, and then put it on. They just bolt on and off. But it's a relatively expensive fix, and if it's rattling like mad at that speed, you don't want to drive it that way, because if it does blow and send shards of metal, get sucked into the engine, can destroy the engine. So you want to fix it one way or the other. Mental warfare. Scotty, flex plates. Changing starters until the plate gets really bad. Is that okay? Well, it depends how bad it is. Your starter engages the gear on the flex plate that has teeth that spins the engine to make it go. And if your starters get knocked off because that thing's wobbling around and going out, eventually it won't start at all. So eventually you're going to have to replace it. There's just no ifs, ands, or buts. Now, I mean, if it doesn't make any noise once the car starts, you can still drive it a while. If it starts rattling, you better change it soon before it flies off and pieces go all over the place and start destroying things. If it's really bad, it's making noise and wobbling bad, that'll also ruin the main shaft of your transmission, and your transmission shot, and you'd have to spend a fortune or replace the whole transmission. So it depends on how much noise it makes, and if it makes it when you're just driving down the road too. Market analysis says, Scotty, if you replace every one of your car parts one by one, what point does a car cease to be the same car, philosophically speaking, not legally speaking? I hate to tell you, but there are so many parts on a car. I've had people come to me and say, oh, Scotty, look, we've changed all the parts in this car. And I could name off hundreds of them that haven't been changed yet. There's a lot of parts in a modern car, let me tell you. I often get customers come and they'll say, well, Scotty, I don't know what's wrong with my air conditioner. I've replaced everything in it, and it still doesn't work right. And I explain to them, there's this part, this part, this part, this part that you haven't changed. There are a lot of parts in cars. And if you do have a one that you have changed scores or maybe even 100 or more parts, you got the wrong car. I say, just get rid of it and get a Toyota or a Honda instead. Joey Z says, what's your opinion on becoming a car mechanic at 14? Well, you're only 14. And at 14, does anybody know what they really want to be? I wanted to either be a garbage man or an astronaut, you know, because I like the garbage trucks riding around on a garbage truck. It'd be kind of fun, you know. And I ended up as a mechanic, so who knows what life is going to throw your way. You know, I mean, if you really want to get into it, at your age, hey, learn electronics, because cars are going totally electronics. And then you'd be really safe, because if they give up with gasoline cars 20 or 30 years from now, you're only 14, you know all the electronics, you don't have no problems working in the cars if they have completely electric cars that everybody's driving around in, instead of just a fringe thing. So if you do and you like electronics, now if you find you don't like electronics, don't get into being a mechanic now and in the future, because it's all going that way. I have to admit, over the last 10 years, I have learned more things about electronics that I didn't know before, because I got to fix these modern cars. And it's interesting because it keeps your mind going, because let's face it, you can't see electricity, right? You can see when a brake drum is broken. You can see when a radiator's leaking, but you can't see electricity. So you got to use your old noggin more when you analyze electricity. And electric tools are coming down so much. I mean, stuff that 40 years ago, some of these electronic tools, they cost $7,000, $8,000. Now some of the same ones cost $50. So the tools cost a lot less too. 72 Nova says, diamond ring or 15 Toyota Highlander for my wife's Christmas present. All right, I definitely say the Highlander, and here's why. Diamonds are so overpriced for what they're worth. Take a diamond in, buy a diamond from a jeweler, $8,000. Take that same ring you just bought, take it to a different jeweler and say, what will you give me for it? And you'll probably still give you $5,000 or something. They depreciate really fast. Where a 15 Toyota Highlander, it's already got some depreciation. You get a good price. That can last a long time. Now, theoretically, the diamonds last forever, and cars eventually going to wear out. But, hey, you could probably have a lot more fun in a Highlander. But then again, it depends on whether you've been good or bad. Maybe your wife really likes jewelry, and you've been bad. In that case, you should get her the ring. You gotta live in the real world here, you know. Stephen the Best says, Scotty, how are the quality of older Nissan Infinitis built in Japan, 95 to 99 Nissan Maxima, and the Infiniti i30s? I'm sick of the new ones, especially the Ultimas. Smart move. That was long before Renault got involved. Those were well-built cars back in those days. Now they're old. Of course, you buy an old one, you could buy an old car, could have problems, need a lot of work, but they were solid built, and you can still get parts for those cars. I mean, if you're the type of guy who wants to buy a car, do a little that'll work on it, go ahead and get one. You know, they can last a long time, and they were solid build cars. Just don't buy, you know, the 2005 version of the same vehicles. Problems up the wazoo with those things. Wilmar Barrick says, which is a better battery tester, a carbon pile or electronic? The carbon pile ones, they got a big problem. They put a big load, and they can actually destroy a battery that's weak. That's why they went to these electronic, and I've had those fancy ones. I've got a Medtronic one. It's a $900 tester, but Scotty's cheap. He didn't buy it. The company gave it to me because they hoped I'd use it in the video, and I have, because it's a good tool, so what the heck. But it uses such low voltage that it doesn't do any damage at all. In the past, ages ago, if I had a carbon tester and I tested the battery, sometimes they wouldn't start the car after because it finished it off. That's never happened with my conductance tester, and they are even more accurate, as I've been using mine for 20-something years, and I've never had one that it gave me wrong reading on. So if you never want to miss another one of my new car repair videos, remember to ring that bell.